Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. It's nice to see that we have evolved and matured in the last 4 years in this forum. I'm Gabriel Kerner. I am responsible of the strategy and the products of Amdocs in the network domain. That includes OSS, policy, NFV, service assurance. We are going to see in the coming 20 minutes how those topics and domain intertwine and correlate. Let me go back a second to the core of what we do at Amdocs. We look for business services. We look to support service provider to become digital service provider, to move from pure connectivity into being the broker of a value ecosystem, providing multiple type of functions to us as customers. And during this transformation, you're all aware, and Emmanuel just talked about it a minute ago, we need to transform our organizations internally. So both from our perspective, the ecosystems vendor, the ecosystems integrator, but also from the telco perspective. And few critical things need to change in our operation. We have to become agile, agility in the sense that we need to provide new type of offerings, new type of functions, new type of integrations in a very fast and, I would say, immediate manner. It has to be real time. Again, the concept of real time means for the customer perspective, is going to touch a button on his web interface and is going to get the service that is been asked for. And underlying those systems, everything has to be, as Arash yesterday said, brutally automated. Question is, how do we achieve that? We talked about this in the last 2 days quite a lot. And looking at NFV from a technology perspective, I think we have reached a maturity gap, right? I think most of the network functions and the service functions now can be virtualized. We have the right infrastructure, the right technologies to achieve it. We have an understanding of how those functions start to interact with each other. How do they bring value to the user, the end customer? But from a management perspective, we need to make this interact all together in a manner that will render this brutal automation, that will enable this agility. So my perspective today with you is to look specifically at the management, or again, orchestration, if you want to talk about it, from business perspective, from organizational perspective, and finally from technology perspective. How do we really achieve agility and automation in the NFV era? Now, if we look at what we need from a stack perspective, right, it's ultimately a continuation of the OSS of the past 20 years with one key difference: design time. So if until now we were looking at, for example, fulfilling 50 million iPhones, then we had to write a script and a good offering in the catalog, and then a BSS or OSS stack dedicated to fulfill 50 million iPhones. In the world of today and tomorrow, I am one customer, I have one specific requirement, probably very customized. The need becomes to have a design time which is intuitive, agile, simple to bring on board, a function, a VNF, a connectivity, an offering, a service. And so the first big change, the paradigm shift that we see, is that we need to have, in order to effectively manage the network or manage the service, we need to have a design environment. And so we have a full understanding now, according to all of the evolution of HCMAN, of OPNFV, of ONAP. Design is becoming a critical element of the stack, but also a critical element of the organization. Are we there yet? Well, to achieve this, it's not just a technological question, it's also an organizational one, right? So we need to start thinking in terms of how I'm going to expose more APIs to my partners, how I'm going to have a standardized approach between service provider for the business orchestration, for example, if you want to have connectivity across the world, how I'm going to change my culture from a culture of building hardware stacks and hardware networks into a software-driven network, deeply ingrained in my culture and my organization. And of course, I need to have, with this, a standardization that is going to support me in doing that. Now, standardization until now has been a little bit diverged, multiple approaches, multiple thinkings, but what it leads to is every time we want to do an orchestration, every time we want to onboard a VNF, then we have to do that in almost a customized manner to the way it has been, or it's going to be orchestrated. Now, it really doesn't lead to agility, isn't it? So if every time the same VNF has to be onboarded differently between different stack for different organizations, it's going to be very difficult to support this. You know, thinking even in terms of just a firmware upgrade, it's almost impossible. So, the are we there yet is right now limited by us as an ecosystem following one path and agreeing that this is the right approach to design VNF, to design model, to design services, to run those services, and so on. So we have been a bit asking around, and we discovered that this challenge is repeating itself again and again. So we need a faster onboarding, we need a faster model design, we need a faster approach to modify our models if we need to. We need some level of agreement across us that these are the APIs and these are the standards. We need different type of people, we need DevOps people, and so on and so on. So we are exactly at this point in time where we all agree we need to get there, but how to do so is obviously not finalized. Now let's look at it from a completely different perspective, the perspective of the platform. Right? We all dream that one day we will have a marketplace of VNF, and anybody can plug into this marketplace, download the VNF, and use it, be it an enterprise, be it a consumer, be it a service provider. And there will be then an ecosystem of producers and an ecosystem of consumers. Now, if this happens, then it is self-reinforcing itself to the point that there will be one platform serving everybody, or one type of platform. Again, I'm putting here the example of Android or the Apple, although it doesn't really directly correlate, but you get the concept. Can we have an NFV platform? And so as Emmanuel just before presented, we are looking here at ONAP, Open Network Automated Platform. Now, ONAP, at the end of the day, is a platform which provides us design, run, operate, and manage of networks or of services. If we agree that this is going to be a platform of choice, then it's open source, and the code is the standard, and everybody can act, can modify, can improve the code from scalability perspective, security perspective, but also from model perspective. It's critically important that there is an agreement across the ecosystem, vendors of VNF, consumers of VNFs, to actually use the same model across the board. Not only that, it will be much easier to actually finally build this vision or dream of a marketplace of VNFs. And this is where ultimately we want to go. If we achieve that, imagine when we can reach. So we could imagine a future where we go much beyond connectivity, even much beyond telcos, and provide across verticals, across domains, across technologies, A platform which will connect everybody to the same model and the same approach. And that leads us back to ONAP. So, in our mind, ONAP is the right approach and platform to move forward. We have one platform managing the network. It's open source. The code is the standard. We are going to also use standardizations and, for example, MEF to provide the interfaces and APIs around it between the BSS stack, OSS stack, and so on. It's approachable by everybody, but the one thing it's not yet is it easily consumable. Because in order to reach this vision, in order for us to be able to make use of it, to train our organizations, to change our organization, we need this platform to be easily consumable. I can tell you that about like any open source program, it's as consumable as raw eggs. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not easily consumable, but what you want to do is not just the raw component of the cake, but you actually want the cake itself. And I know it's just before lunch and you're already hungry, so I'm giving you a tease, and hopefully you get a good cake later on. But what you really want in your organization is to have the cake. You want to eat the cake. You don't care about having all the components and understanding how they integrate and try to build a solution around this that will take you 6 months and so on. So lowering the barrier of entry to NFV is going to be a key element enabling VNF vendors and constructors to actually design a model that will fit for them and that will be easily consumable by telcos. For telcos to test those VNF and onboard them and create a service model around them and bring them into their catalog. So this is what we at Amdocs have been occupied in the last few months. After we put ONAP to open source, now what we want to do is give it to you so you can actually make use of it. This is, by the way, the screen of the entry point for you to open ONAP. This is ONAP on the cloud. We are giving it to you. I didn't say free. But I did say that you can simply ask us, get a link, get an admin, and start working. Now, what does it mean, start working? Well, you have an ONAP instance on the cloud. You have a full stack of design time, runtime, manage time in the cloud with examples, with predefined functions and services that you can start make use of, integrate with your labs, integrate with your system, and by this, get an entry point into NFV, which is not too painful. Let me give you a few screenshots of what is in there. So you can, of course, set it up. You can decide which version of ONAP you're going to use, which version of which component inside of it you're going to use. Alan was talking earlier about inventories, and about fulfillment, and so on. You need to have a full stack, a fully mature stack. You might even want to have some code modification, and you want to be testing that these code modifications are going to interact with each other. And so you want to be able to build a stack according to your needs. Then you run this stack, and it takes exactly 12 minutes to have a hosted environment in which you can start onboarding a VNF and run the service. So once you onboard a VNF, of course, you're going to look into the library, you're going to maybe onboard your own VNF, you may be going to test that the latest upgrade is going to work well, you're going to design the service model with it, you're going to bring the service model to the consumer, and you're going to ask him, can you test it with me in an environment which is safe, which is secured, which doesn't disturb my network? And then we can evaluate and verify the flows, verify the service model, verify the service instance. So this is just a few of the screens that you can use. And we very much invite you all to contact us and simply get this environment to check it out and test it. It's a very good entry point because from there you can now bring a VNF, you can bring even an SD-WAN flow, you can test it, you can even start running it in your labs or in your environments and enter the world of what we promise to be NFV in a, I would say, not painless, but simpler manner. Now, simplicity has to be the name of the game. Is it enough? Well, it's the beginning. So if you think about it, instantiating a VNF is one thing, but with this, in order to achieve agility, in order to achieve, again, I'm repeating Arash Ashuria from yesterday, brutal automation, there is no magic, right? You need to rethink the way you take a service and bring it into your system in a way that it can be automated. And that means you also need to build best practices, you also need to build design of policies, if this then that, if an event happens, how to resolve it, how to run the closed loop control on the orchestration, on the controller, how to run open loop control on the business orchestration, how to integrate between the virtual part of a service, the physical parts of a service, even the partner part, right? Imagine, for example, you want to change a VNF instantiated on one cloud and move it to another cloud. It involves much more than just orchestration at the technology level. You have to, all the way to the business orchestration, have APIs to your partners, have them reinstantiating and verifying the service again. So we need to think of it holistically. And I'm repeating, design time is going to be the critical components of this ecosystem because you can only automate what you very, very well defined. So I'm leaving you with these thoughts. We are at a very mature stage in our NFV lifecycle. I think we understand very well the technologies. I think we know very well how to onboard them, how to bring them into operation. We now need to bring that organizationally, and that means make sure that we all have an adoption mechanism which is mature, which is easy to consume, and this is the first thing that we are bringing you forward. And looking ahead, we need to also evolve our organization and evolve our way we build our service in order to automate their life cycle and the way they are run at our customers. And with that, of course, I thank you.